Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Gray Area. Thank you for being with us this evening. I am Mr. Bennett, along with my partner, Grooming and Reviews 101, aka The Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Panagiotis. To my Adelphos, Peter, I say to you sincerely, Kalopasha and Christos Anisti. And for those of you who don't are not familiar with the language that is Greek, Kalopasha is Happy Easter, and Christos Anesti means Christ has risen. All right. So again, we're definitely looking forward to this show. For those who don't know, again, we did a show a few weeks ago where we had Father Costantino on talking about the Greek Orthodox faith, and in the Greek Orthodox Church, Easter is actually celebrated today, this Sunday. Not now for those of us in the Western Church, in the Catholic and Protestant churches. It was celebrated by us on March 31st, and there's reasons for that, which we could certainly go into for the show. But this is a very special day for our 300 plus million Orthodox followers around the world. And certainly, we're going to explore some of that this evening. When I was looking to this, it took me down several rabbit holes because to truly understand the differences, you have to understand the use of different calendars, okay, and also significant events as well. So that took me down a rabbit hole. If I get a chance, I'll share some slides that I prepared for this to help to educate, hopefully, all of us, and not certainly add to the confusion, because it can certainly get confusing. But certainly for the Eastern Orthodox Church, just as we in the West, this is certainly one of their holiest days of the year. So certainly I respect and celebrate with my brothers on the eastern side of the world. And so Peter, I'll let you introduce. But before that, again, for those of you who are joining this evening, again, say thank you once again for joining with us. If you're scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you see our Cash Apps. If you'd be so kind to support us, but more importantly, we ask that you support the network. Drop us a Cash App or drop a super chat, I should say, for the BMU network, so he can continue to provide us with quality content, and we can have these in-depth discussions on the differences in our world, and hopefully find unity through those differences as well. So Peter, how's your day gone so far? And if you want to introduce things, the floor is yours,
Yeah,
sir.
first
Take
of
it
all,
away.
I want to say I'm stuffed. Oh man, I had a feast beyond a goddamn feast. Whew. I'm like, I have to work this out for the next freaking month. I'll probably get all my
That's
weight
right.
back.
That's right.
So, your terminology is pretty dead on. Okay, so when we say Christos anesti, we reply with athos anesti. In English, Christ has risen. He's truly risen. Your turn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Awesome. I
um,
thought Sinesty. Awesome.
yes. So it's the best way you could, respond respectfully. If you don't, Happy Easter is fine to any Orthodox out there.
Mm.
So to all my Greek Orthodox, Greek non-Orthodox, any Orthodox, Christos Anesti, I hope everybody had a great Orthodox Easter. So this is a very holy week for us. It's the most important week, I would say, almost. There are three mysteries in the Orthodox religion. One is the Holy Week. Two is the Holy Communion, and three is baptism, marriage, and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
this is very, very important. This is why I want to touch the space on this. So we start last week. Sunday was the last day we can actually kind of feast on regular for a whole week till last night. Had to become a vegan. Part of it is discipline. If you can become a vegan and discipline yourself mentally and spiritually, we believe the devil cannot cut you off, try to
Mm.
tempt you from Christ, from God.
Yeah. Now, how
So,
long do you have to go into that season? What's the
so
duration?
that's a trick question because it depends on a lot of things. One, it's supposed to be for 45 days, but a lot of people cannot do 45 days. Like myself, I'm a chef, so for me to not taste the food, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard.
Right.
So my bosses can work with me for a week at least.
Mm.
So and they're very respectful usually. I have some places I worked for, like bars, and like they told me, you have two choices. You can taste your food or get the fuck out of my restaurant. So I have to, obviously. But things have come around so much over the years. Like if a boss, any employee tells you get the fuck out of his restaurant because of your religion reason, yeah, the backlash he's gonna get, he's not gonna have a restaurant at the end of the day. So by saying that, it's a challenge. This whole week is very hard because you're the temps everywhere. Like I go down, walk down in any kitchen I work in. Burgers are right there, turkey's there, fish is there. I'm like, I want to eat meat, but I continue straight path. I'm like, I can't even have milk in my coffee. If you drink milk, you drink almond milk. That's allowed. Almond milk's allowed, but some things you're not. A lot of things you're not allowed. What I lived off the last week was mostly peanut butter and jellies. So towards the end, it get very boring. They were very boring. I was never most people grew up on peanut butter and jellies. I didn't. Like it's something I kind of got into when I was older, and it's a good have as fasting time because it's peanut butter jellies. Nothing's in there to worry about it. If that makes sense. You're on mute.
I was typing, so I didn't want that to interfere.
No,
So,
you're good.
so let me ask you. So, what? So you say you didn't grow up on peanut butter and jelly
Mm.
sandwiches. So, just off topic, what then is a Greek equivalent? So, you talk about like a snack food, something quick that you can, easily put together. What in a typical Greek home, if it's not going to be a PB and J, what would your go-to quick, fast snack meal
Honestly,
be?
they're very simple things. Like maybe a toast with jam or jelly, for example.
Hmm.
Again, that's vegan. Or um, they make crackers, vegan crackers. You can have that. There are
Hmm.
a bunch of different stuff you can have. Actually, they
Hmm.
have all type of snacks that is not animal bread, and you can
Right,
have.
but is there anything that's purely Greek, like a Greek delicacy or something like that? That's typically different from Western food that you would find in a Greek home. That is like Greek yogurt. And I don't. Is it even fair to call it Greek yogurt, or is that just a name, a moniker that they associate with it? But there's just such a thing as Greek yogurt versus non-Greek. Just to, not to get too off topic. I'm just curious about that.
So it is a Greek yogurt. That is
Mm.
actually it is, but the
Okay.
brand makes it what is Greek.
Okay.
So like one of the brands I know, trying to think of the name of it. I gotta look it up. Give me 1 second to find it. But
Mm.
it's the one I know for a fact because I know the owner actually. My mom grew up with him. He is Fayet. It's the only Greek yogurt that you're gonna find
Yeah, the
in the
Fage,
United States.
Fage. I think. Yeah, I think it's called. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Right.
So they're a bunch like you can see like Weiss. I don't know if you have Weiss by you. It says
Mm.
Greek yogurt. Again, it's
Mm.
not Greek yogurt. Chapani, that's the company I was looking for.
Chapani. Yep, I've heard of that
Chapani's
one. Yeah.
is not. They were originally created by a Greek company. They were
Hmm.
sold from last time I checked. My information might be outdated a little bit.
Hmm.
Was a Turkish company. I guess nothing wrong with that,
Hmm.
but they're not Greek. And it's a lot of it. And Orhis, again, that is non-Greek too. It has a
Hmm.
Greek name. It has Greek everything, but it's made outside of Greece. There
Hmm.
are a
Hmm.
bunch of them, so you be very careful when it comes to products
Right.
like
Right.
feta. That's another Greek one. They say it's Greek, but it's not.
Hmm.
Like I go to the store and buy, I see feta. I go, is this really feta? There's only one
Hmm.
or two brands I look at. Like again, I gotta check this. Looks okay. That's actually Greek. You can Google most of this
Right.
stuff and find where the roots of it. Sometimes you gotta deep really into it because they say, oh, this is false advertisement. Yes and no, it's false advertisement because I can tell from because I'm in the business. Greek yogurt is the way you make it.
Hmm.
That's what they call it Greek yogurt. To
Right.
me, it's also how where it comes from too.
Yeah.
Because Fage is a thicker yogurt.
Yeah.
If you ever tried it,
I
versus
have. I have.
yeah,
Yeah. It's very strong. I mean, compare. I mean, and that's the
it is.
thing. I mean, in America, most Greek yogurts, it's really like it's pudding.
Yeah.
With maybe a little bit of probiotics in it or whatnot, but it's basically it's pudding. I know my daughters and my wife they'll even eat like we call it oikos. I think you call it something else. Oikos. They call it here. So that's one they use because it's high in protein
Hmm.
and whatnot. But a lot of the yogurts they really don't have any nutritional value, and they're very sweet. And but again, but the Fajis or the those other types of yogurts. They really don't have a lot of those health benefits that you would find in like the Greek yogurts and a lot of the other ones. So that I do recognize, but it's definitely not something to you're going to enjoy all because of it, or you're going to add some things to it or use it in recipes and food, different dishes. I know a lot of Indians use a lot of the yogurts or whatnot when they make their curries and
That's
different
correct.
things. And
So, as
so,
being a
yeah,
chef,
yeah,
I have cooked Indian food in the past. Excuse me. So, a lot of their food, they actually do marinate their food, like chicken, for example. I
hmm
can't remember the name of the recipe off my head. They
hmm
marinate it in yogurt overnight.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's that
and a lot of people
tandoori. I
says
think
you don't have,
tandoori or tandoori
yeah,
chicken.
something like that.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
people, and this is where I'm going to push back on anybody who said disagree, is that you don't have to marinate overnight. Oh shit, you have to marinate it overnight. It
hmm
soaks all the yogurt into the
Yeah,
chicken.
yeah.
So with the food wise, I'm actually trying to like share the picture in 1 second. I got to transfer it from my phone to here, my
hmm
computer. Lamb is the number one food you're gonna eat in Greece in
hmm
a house during the Easter time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's it's the number one. Kokorechi is the second one, and I'm gonna share my screen right now. Hopefully it works.
hmm
Here we go. All right. Hopefully it worked. I don't know. I can't see it on my side. Did it work on this side or no? But there we go.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
what
nice.
I made today. Is a leg of lamb. Be honest, the sucker is expensive. That is like that little sucker is like over $50. So that is one of them. I'm gonna look up for another couple more pictures. I don't make the other one. The other one's called kokorechi. Hey, kokorechi. I'll be honest with you.
hmm
It's they take the inside of the lamb
hmm
and the liver, the stomach, and they wrap it up and they cook it off. Not my cup of tea, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But we hopefully we can get into that discussion because I really want to contrast
Hmm.
how again the Orthodox Church celebrates Easter versus those in the West celebrate. Now it's funny, like even in certainly in the West in more modern times, even the word Easter is becoming more and more controversial in the
Agree.
West because typically, and again, this a lot of is based on, just traditions and whatnot. Easter is oftentimes associated with Easter egg hunts, and you wear your Easter suit to Sunday and the Easter bunny, and what's considered a lot of pagan practices that are associated with the holiday. And so in recent years, there's been a move, either conscious or um, um, unconscious, to start using instead of Easter to use Resurrection Sunday instead of Easter. In fact, I have a brother; he's pretty hardcore with this as well. So if I just text, in fact, we had a text exchange a couple weeks ago around Easter time, and I referred to the Easter holiday, and he just kind of credits no, we refer to it as Resurrection Sunday. We don't call it Easter anymore. And so so for a lot of people, the wording tends to matter to them, and they're moving away not to sort of distinguish it. And the same thing with Christmas. Also, again, Christmas is usually associated with Christmas trees and gifts and things, not necessarily the birth of Christ. And so, for a lot of people, they feel the need to want to separate. Me, I don't get caught up in the word salads of the issue. I have no problem saying Merry Christmas or Happy Easter or
Hmm.
Resurrection Sunday. It's whatever floats your boat. And I'm always going to, in particular, Romans chapter 14, where Paul, he talks about oftentimes the divisions that people have over menial issues, the holidays that you celebrate, the days that you celebrate. We know that, again, based on the calendars, which we'll talk about, certain days follow different traditions. I mean, Christmas is not celebrated on December 25th by all Christian people. Depending on the calendar to use, sometimes it's January 6th or 7th is when Christmas is celebrated. The issue or the important thing is, why are we doing it? It's either the birth of Christ or it is typically the resurrection of Christ on the cross. And as long as you're doing it in that spirit, I don't care what day you do it. Same thing. I don't really care about the day you worship. Now, again, traditionally, the church worships on Sundays, but I know churches that start services on Fridays, on Saturdays, midweek. My thing is, are you getting it in? Are you truly taking the time to worship God? So if you think of a day or holiday more important than another, go ahead. Or if you think of every day the same, because I know Christians who don't celebrate any holiday at
Hmm.
all. They just say every day is the same. If I have breath, I thank God, and I just so I don't treat any day different. That floats your boat also. So again, I'm not here to disrespect or discard traditions. But at the same time, I'm not going to be so anal in how I look at things that I don't allow for a full breadth of expression. When someone greets me with Happy Easter, I'm not going to be offended and say, no, this is the we shouldn't call it Easter, it's called Resurrection Sunday. I know a lot of people are hardcore or becoming more hardcore when it comes to that. I never understood that. But again, I don't allow something like that to get away from the central issues, which is, having faith in Jesus Christ. So so for a lot of people who come in with that energy, I think there were a couple of people in the chat who were kind of putting some things out there. Again, I don't entertain that, and I don't get into those discussions because I think it just um, muddies the important things, and we get just dragged down. So again, for people who want to kind of have that kind of issue or debate, this is not certainly the place for it. So tonight's show is going to be about, again, exploring, um, certainly in this case, since a lot of people don't know about the Eastern Orthodox tradition of their celebration of Easter, we're going to talk about that. And for the idea of understanding and cultural exchange. But it's not to say who's right and who's wrong. It's not to say that someone's doing something improperly. Again, this is the gray area. This whole idea is to have a safe space to have good conversation. So again, if you're coming in here with that kind of energy, then this is not the place for you. So I just want to put that out there, just to level set for everybody who's going to come in. We welcome everyone into this space to listen to us, but you don't have to stay here. So I just want to put that out there before we go forward.
Yeah, I
Um,
totally respect. Like, I would agree because respect is a big thing with us.
yeah,
Like, if you
for
come in with
sure.
a negative, we're not gonna ignore you and move on. Simple as
Yeah,
that. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I want to touch base a couple things. So you said,
sure.
like the way you come off, let's say, Christmas. Let's use that. Let's go off the Christmas thing. So I have a little pushback on a couple of this stuff, a little bit, and not much really. So I still feel like Christmas should have the name Christ in because it is the birth of Christ. But
Hmm.
I do understand not everybody celebrates Christmas. I like my good friend Hashim. He is Muslim. And so I'm not gonna greet him Merry Christmas. I'm gonna keep him Happy Holiday because I know his beliefs are different. And I
Correct.
respect that.
Yes,
And
sir.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
But if I know you're a Christian, I will greet you guys
absolutely.
Merry Christmas. Now with Easter, I will probably keep it neutral and say, Happy Easter
Hmm.
versus a happy, Holy Sunday or Christos Annes or Christus Risen. Because you don't know, like some Christians don't believe he was risen, and that's
Absolutely.
and that's
Absolutely.
okay, and
Yeah.
I respect that,
Right.
and they respect me of that.
Right.
So people question me like, "Oh, why is it different?" Like that's well, we believe in a different,
Right.
the leap year. I explained to
Right.
them like, and people always have real Easter. Like that's a point of view,
Yeah.
and I
And
don't
and and,
push it.
and for me, I expand it even further because I have no issue with saying wishing an Indian person happy Diwali, or
Yeah.
for a Muslim if they're going through Eid Mubarak, or if they're going through their Ramadan seasons or whatnot.
Mhm.
Because my thing is, you get respect by giving respect.
I
So
agree
if I
100%.
can't respect your right to worship and celebrate the way you do, then how can then I expect you to then respect when I say certain things, or if I worship certain things? So again, I think respect goes both ways. So again, some hardcore people, they're not with that. They say because we don't recognize or honor that and whatnot as pagan or whatever. But that just is big with me. So I don't someone else's expression of a holiday or tradition doesn't affect certainly my faith, and certainly as an act of courtesy to a fellow human being, I'm not going to disrespect them that way. That doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation, or certainly if they
Of
decide to become
course.
a Christian, I'd say, hey, terrific. If you want to become a Christian, that's perfectly fine, and I would certainly celebrate and welcome that. But again, I'm not here to diss your religion or disrespect your faith. So again, people who come with that energy, Um, I just don't roll with that. And again, for people who have that kind of energy, I don't even like to be around them. I mean, I've been around some Christian groups who operate that energy, and I don't even like being around you at that point. Like I said, I got some relatives who are like, we're not going to talk about this, or we move on to the other subject because again, the way you're writing is just not a good. It's just not a good energy that I like to be around. So that's
One thing I
just
would add
yeah,
to everybody
yeah.
who, most of us don't know us personally, but I met Paul personally. and every conversation I had is positive. And that's one thing
Mhm.
I respect and love the death out of this guy, because I can have a conversation with him. We may not agree and
That's right.
disagree, but we respect each other's opinion. And he might ask my
Right.
questions, why do you do this or why, and so on. And a conversation, maybe a 5 minute turns into a 5 hour conversation
Yeah.
because how much we respect each other.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think, and we're better. I think for the
Hmm.
exchange, we
Yeah,
grow as individuals when we allow people to express themselves. So again, so that's the that's just that's always been how I've been, or I've certainly matured to be this way, and that just works for me. So there's certain conversations, even in different Christian chat groups or whatever. I'm like, no thanks, because you guys are on this energy that I just don't flow with.
the one thing I do want to add to this is people forget about it, and I want to
Motion detected at the bedroom camera.
shut up. Yeah, she's moody sometimes.
I
Um,
hear you.
is people forget when you're a Christian means you love everybody. You don't
Hmm.
love only your people in your church or your religion. You love everybody. It doesn't matter you're Christian, you're Orthodox, Roman, Muslim, Buddhist. It doesn't matter who you are.
Or no
You
faith at
res-
all.
yeah,
The atheist and the agnostic. I mean,
yeah.
it's yeah,
No, I
absolutely,
have a really
absolutely.
good friend of mine, King Smith. He doesn't believe in Christ, and it doesn't mean I just. I love the guy to death. He drives me up
Hmm.
the wall half the times because that's how
Right,
we are. But
right.
he's one of the most respectful people. Who he will ask questions like you. He will,
Hmm.
get into the conversation, and he will respectfully express, "I don't believe in that," and that's okay.
Right.
So, but
Awesome. All right, so let's get unless you want to kick off a topic, I can go into my piece of the conversation. I like to kind of level set, and again, when I knew we were going to be talking about this topic, I wanted to do a
mm,
little bit of sort of
homework.
background so I had a better understanding of what's going on. I'm thinking if I had to do that, then certainly for those who might be watching or listening tonight, that they may have that also. So I kind of
Hmm.
put together a little something that I want to share, and then you can then take it from there. And then later in the conversation, I want to get into the specifics because from what you already described, again, the celebration of Easter. Yes, we'll call it Easter tonight. For those
That's
who
fine.
want to be anal about it, I want to learn that and understand that a bit more because it seems like not only when we talk about Easter, we're not only talking about the Christian part of it, but from understanding there's also a Jewish part of it that also seems to
Yes,
be involved here. Again, the idea of kalo pasha. The word pasha comes from the Hebrew word from pashal, which is their
correct.
Passover. And again, the whole idea of Passover, meaning the idea of you got to go in the Bible, you got to go back to again that Exodus when um, the people, the Pharaoh refused to let the people out of Egypt, and so God sent several plagues and pestilence and things on the nation. And one of the things He did was He sent the death angel over Egypt to kill the firstborn born of every child. And so what He told the people to do was to paint their doorposts. Take a calf, take a lamb, kill it, take the blood, and with a branch of hyssop, paint that over your doorposts so that when the death angel came, he would pass over your house. So the people in your house would be protected, your children would be protected, but for everyone who didn't have that firstborn would perish. And then also with that Passover lamb, which is again why the lamb is so important, not only to the Jewish people, but also to the Christian people. Again, Christ is referred to oftentimes as the Lamb of God. And so, the idea of eating that Passover dinner is certainly very steeped in Hebrew tradition. But from what I'm also initially hearing here in the Orthodox Church, the serving of lamb as that sort of that Passover meal, for a lot of you, I'm sure it connects you to certainly the Last Supper of Christ, and certainly the Passover meal that they had together as well. Again, from my understanding in the Western Church, Baptist, Methodist churches and whatnot, yeah, people go out and have Easter Sunday dinner, but very few. I've never been to a house where lamb is served intentionally as part of the Easter meal per se. Usually, it's like especially in the black community, it's like soul food. So you might do a roast beef, you might do some
Hmm.
ham, or some turkey, or some so just all kinds of soul food dishes and things of that nature. But having lamb as the central meal in commemoration of the Passover is something that usually isn't necessarily expressed. So I definitely want to get a deeper dive into that as we go forward. But again, the word pasha or pashal, meaning the Passover, is part centrally as to why we celebrate Easter, because of the time and events when Christ had died. It was basically on the the day of Passover. And so, or around those times roughly. So again, so all these critical days. So from the Christian perspective, from the Jewish perspective, a lot of these traditions and a lot of these histories are sort of combining together. Jesus was a Jew, and certainly the people around that time. The story takes place around um, a Jewish perspective. And so, the idea of making sure we have an understanding of those, I think, is important to the conversation. Any comments on you, Peter, before I
Yeah, I do. I have a
before I
couple
go forward?
comments
Sure.
actually. Okay, so yes, you're right. Judaism is, it comes from, our Christianity comes from Judaism. I actually just had the same conversation recently with Doctor Father Cosadino.
Hmm.
So and he agreed what we're saying here. Yeah, originally he was Jewish and everything else. And my question was to him, how come Christians and Jews don't mix? He goes, because he doesn't, Jews don't believe he was the Messiah to this
Correct.
day. And that, okay, I respect that. And we moved on for the conversation. So with the lamb, yes, that's where the tradition I personally believe it started. Again, I don't have any hard facts. Like, okay, here's the paperwork kind of thing, facts.
Hmm.
I personally believe it started with the Moses incident. Like he told him, butcher your best lamb, paint a cross on an X. I can't remember. I think it was an X on it with the blood. So the angel skips the first burn of yours.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's where we continue with it. Now with Greeks, we don't only eat lamb on Easter. We eat on major holidays. Like
Hmm.
lamb is our go-to thing. So
Okay, so that's like your steak.
yeah, Christmas, yes. New Year's, yes. Birthdays, yes.
Okay.
Easter, of course. So
Right.
there's only one other culture that I know they only eat lamb on Easter is Roman Catholics,
Mm.
and they eat it with mint and jelly, and that's how they do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Right. Right.
Cool. We eat it with usually with potatoes, salads. We make a potato Russian salad kind of mixture,
Hmm.
and of course we got to top it up with our favorite sauce, tzatziki. You know,
Okay.
it goes
Okay.
well. I
Right.
goes. I gotta say,
Right.
but
Now, is it like Thanksgiving turkey where, like, you have leftovers and for days you're trying to make eat, eat the rest, or make stew or sandwiches or something
I
like that
actually
out of
had a
it? Is it
guest
like
this
as a
year,
goal?
because she never had a Greek Easter, so I wanted to have her come in. Stacey, who's in the comments right now, she left with 2 bags. We
Mm.
made one big bag, but it was literally stuffed like this big. She goes, "A lot of food, just me and my daughter." I'm like, "Yeah, what's your point? You don't have to cook for a few days."
Right. Right.
And I asked her, "Listen, this is your first Greek food, like Greek traditional, hardcore, y- you know, Pascal food." She go,
Hmm.
"How'd you like it?" Her comment was, "She loved it."
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm using my mom's recipes. My mom did most
Hmm.
of the cooking because
Hmm.
I'm not allowed to touch as a man. I'm not allowed to touch her
Okay.
kitchen.
There you go.
She chases me with a knife around the house.
Right.
Scary, scary thought. A Greek woman with a knife. Whew.
Yeah.
And she just commented right now. It was delicious, like you said. And
Yeah.
like again, it's the we invite everybody in. I have like people. I used to get a big lamb. I mean, the whole lamb. I used to prep it the night before. We put a stewer. We, start. I had a machine that turned it. I'm not sitting there all day
Yeah, like the
long.
rotisserie kind of.
Yeah. Funny story. My uncle, his name is Pete too. My uncle Pete, from my mom's side, he hated lamb, but he would sit there with a 12 case of beer, a pack of cigarettes, sit there
Hmm.
one hand a cigarette and doing this all. Just sit there. He didn't want a machine. He goes old school,
Yeah.
and he would not eat it. He never liked lamb.
But he would prepare it though.
He cooked it. He did everything, the whole prep
Everything. Yeah.
feast.
Hmm.
I'm like, and here's another funny story. Actually, 1 year, okay, so back in the day, me and my cousin used to rotate one holiday at my house, one day at his year. That year was raining really bad. We couldn't, so seriously. So he had a whole land. He didn't know how to do it. So my cousin's not smart. I don't get put out there. He's not smart. So he took a machete, or you call it masata. He started cutting it on a glass table.
Oh wow.
I woke over. I'm like coming home like, I like a butcher. I'm like, why is the glass all over your deck, dude? And I'm like,
Oh my god.
don't ask. I'm like, oh, I gotta ask. He goes,
Hmm.
well, I was taking the lamb. I'm assailing them, beating them. I'm like, you're an idiot. And he goes, but you didn't hear that. I don't need to hear the end. I know what happened, right? You destroyed your goddamn table, didn't you? He goes, I don't want to talk about it, man. And like, and his joke was, I was too high. And I'm like, no, you were. You don't even smoke. He goes, that's not the point. I was high, okay.
Right.
But that's a little family joke.
Right.
But with the lamb, it's it's delicious. I can't stop talking about it. It's one of my favorites. I even get lamb chops, and through not hunting, barbecue them, roast them, whatever, or making them into stew is it's great. So that's the food. It's tradition. So I want to backtrack a little bit how we prep the whole week to go to that point. So I want to get everybody understanding. Maybe you understand too. So Monday, we follow the steps like from the time he gets captured all the way to his prison, and everything. So the first 3 days is a simple service, nothing crazy. They're recommending you gaining confession. Try it before Wednesday. It's not the end of the world. It's not, but it's because the priest is so busy. He's not gonna be able to have time to do any other time. So now the big starts on.
So before you go on, so do you call it, because in the I guess in the Catholic and I guess the Western Church we call it Holy Week. So
Yeah,
you
we do call it
have
Holy Week.
your,
Yes, correct.
you have your Ash Wednesday, your Monday Thursdays, your Good Friday. They have these different days that are designated for certain things. Do you guys follow a similar tradition in terms of certain days for certain events?
Yes. So the definition of Holy Week in Greek, in Megali Domada, Holy Week, or no, a big week, not in English, but
Right.
in actual tradition, really it's called Holy Week. So Monday is called Megali Deftera, I mean Big Monday, but its actual tradition again is different. It goes to Holy Monday. So where it really kicks off the most of it, the first 2 days is like very simple service, reading the Bible, nothing crazy. Wednesday is supposed to be Ash Wednesday for Roman Catholics. Please correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul.
Yeah, but it's interesting because again, even in the Protestant church, you have a lot of Protestant churches who are adopting a lot of those Roman traditions. So again, typically you almost know to a person who's Catholic and who's not, because they may come to work and they have the ashes on their forehead. So they take that. But you have a few more Protestant churches, even some black churches that I know, that started doing Ash Wednesday services. And if you wanted to receive ashes, you could also do so. So again, this is something that's relatively new, at least in my lifetime, where people are starting to adopt that as well. But again, it was almost like a telltale sign. Someone came to work, they had the black ash on their forehead, so they must be Catholic. That was usually associated, but it's getting a bit more difficult to tell these days because again, some Protestant churches are starting to adopt the practice.
So again, I do apologize what I'm going to say right now because I was a little naive when I was younger. So when I saw somebody have ash, like I was working in a restaurant, I go, when I was very young, I was talking about I was like 15, 16 at the time. I go, I didn't know anything but Greek Orthodox at the time. Like, I go to the guy like, dude, you got something on your head. He goes, somebody comes up like, it's Ash Wednesday, dude. And I'm like, what's Ash Wednesday?
Yeah.
Didn't know any better. And to us, what equal to Ash Wednesday, we have called Menoros. Pretty much the father does, he goes to the service, towards the end of the service, you go in line, he takes a little cotton with a long stick usually, and he puts oil on your forehead, cheeks, chin, and some will do on your neck. This year was very special. I'll explain why. This year was the high priest of think of it like you have the priest as like a manager,
right?
And then he has a district manager, the high priest of the area. Then you have another one on top of him who does the country. Then you have the other one who follows everything.
Right.
He was there, and we don't see him that often because he lives pretty far. He's far. He practiced out of Pittsburgh, so it's like a 4 to 6 hour drive. So he doesn't come up. And he said it himself in his speech. He goes, beautiful service and everything. People forget about how important Wednesday is. And he goes, I want to apologize to everybody here. He goes, I don't come as often as I should, and I should make it more effort. And I respect that. He acknowledged his downfalls. So that's where it starts. Now on Thursday is the crucifixion of Christ. They literally, you see him, the priest carries the cross, literally goes through the whole motion, getting crucified and everything. Some priests, and I experienced this once on Wednesday. I want to backtrack from it because this came to my mind. I apologize.
Sure. Mhm.
they will go through the washing of the feet too.
Right.
They will get as many holy boys, uh, altar boys they can,
Mhm.
line them up, and you're gonna sit in a chair like I'm sitting right now. Take my socks off, and the priest will sit there and literally wash each one of them, as many as you know Christ did, in
What?
order.
So would the priest wash the altar boy's feet?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. If you remember Christ again, I don't know if
Yes.
you guys have the same thing, but we do. That Christ washed his disciples' feet. If you remember that,
Right. Right.
he goes
Now
through that
again,
motion.
that's the foot washing ceremony is not done in every church. The only church Protestant church that I know that does it as a part of their practice is there's a group called the Brethren Church,
Okay.
where they practice foot washing, but it's not a common practice in most Protestant churches to do. But certainly, we're all very familiar with the teaching and the story. The idea that if again, if you want to be, the greatest of you, you must serve, and certainly using that as an object lesson to educate people on the act of service. That was definitely something that he insisted on. So again, we're very familiar with the story, but in terms of
Mhm.
practice, again, I haven't seen it done much, at least not in the Protestant churches that I've
And I
frequented,
agree
and I
100%
don't
there.
know as much about the Catholic Church either.
I only seen it once in my whole
Hmm.
life.
Right.
It was back in I still live in New York. I was still in high school, and it took me away from this, and I had to collect my thoughts. To even say, it still has to collect my thoughts a little bit, and I had to ask my mother, I go, and my mom's friend, like, "I'd never seen this ever happen." I go, "We never seen it either." The only time it was, his name was Father John outside New York. He's not there. He got transferred, and he did it. The only time I ever seen it ever happen. Never ever again.
Right.
They talk about it, they preach about it, but nobody actually goes through the motions. So the next day, like he goes through the crucifixion, and on now on Thursday, Friday is his tomb. A better way to explain it.
Right.
This year is very special, because the we have volunteers who help out with stuff like that. His name is George. Shout out to him if he's listening. George goes up to me and goes, "Dude, go carry the Batafio." That's what we call it. I go, "I'm allowed to do that?" Like, it kind of took me off. I know, as if you're volunteering and you already made arrangements, yes, you're allowed. I didn't make arrangements. I didn't, I won't. I never really consider myself doing it, to be honest with you. So slowly, he kind of pushed me, and he goes to the guy, "You need a break?" He goes, "Yeah, my shoulder's giving out." He goes, so I got on there and I'm carrying it all the way to the door, and we go under it afterwards to get blessed, and I'm literally carrying it the whole time.
Wow.
And I got emotional. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know why I got emotional to the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I teared up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I could totally understand. I mean, the whole week you talk about this preparatory week. I mean, the whole thing is certainly if you're truly believing and trusting in, you understand the sacrifice that was made,
Yeah.
and even his demeanor, Jesus' demeanor through that entire week. It should humble you. I mean, the idea of the ashes on your forehead, from what I understand, again, that is an act of humility. When you're in mourning, when you're grieving, or when you're being humbled, to be in sackcloth and ashes. I mean, that's the whole thing. But the whole idea is that as you come closer, certainly to the crucifixion, you should understand the gravity of the sacrifice that was made for us. So I can certainly understand someone, as you get closer to those times, that you being moved emotionally for that. I think that's a positive sign in my view of one's spiritual state, when you can come to that level of humility. And for some people, it's like, oh, it's just a day. It's just a day to dress up, and we'll do the Easter egg hunts, and we'll do the rabbits, and candy and all. I mean, if that's your base level of understanding, then you're totally missing the boat in terms of the holiday, what the event and the events leading up to it represent. So I can totally understand in that you being moved by that.
Yeah. So now we're going into Saturday. So we have two exhortation. The first one is technically he was raised in the morning, but nobody. We only a lot of people don't recognize that one because he was really discovered at night. The
Mhm.
reason it was discovered is this holy flame came out of his tomb,
Mhm.
and it still comes out to this day. A holy priest goes, collects the flame, puts it in a canister, if you want to put it the best way I explain it, and
Mhm.
transfers to all the Orthodox churches.
Mhm.
So service, and it's a long service. I'm not gonna lie. People like them are like, whoa, that's
Yeah. How long were you? Because you went midnight last night, right? Oh,
11:30 starts.
11:30
Yeah,
p.m. Your service started. And how long were you there to?
3 a.m.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm not joking. You do. So I think this part of it is tradition, and part of it makes sense. So you're going like the Christos Anesti to be done. I said the first Christos Anesti, Father was saying, is at midnight when it was
Mhm.
discovered.
Mhm.
So it says and everything like and then he comes back. We do it outside. I feel bad for
Mhm.
those neighbors because it is pretty loud. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So we say Christos Anesti. He says it in all different languages. He says it in Russian. He says it in Spanish. He says it in Greek. He says it Ukraine, as many languages as possible. He says it.
Mhm.
So then he goes right into Sunday service because it's already Sunday. So
Mhm.
I think this is part tradition and part it makes sense. So why go home, get a couple hours sleep, and come back anyway the next day? We could
Right.
go right into it, and that's what we
Right.
do.
Right. Now, I know a lot of churches, they will do what's called a sunrise service. I
Mhm.
know I've been in church where a lot of times it depends on, who's pastoring or what they feel the value of it is. So some services you'll get up just at literally you get in the church at 5, 6 in the morning, just at sunrise to have a service. I've seen some Protestant churches start to implement that as well. But again, to better sort of connect you to the event itself, rather than your traditional 10 or 11 o'clock church service time. To have something more aligned with the morning, that again apparently he was risen from the dead. So again, that whole week leading up from the Monday all the way up through and again, also depending on whether or not you go through any kind of Lenten season. And again, I don't know in the Greek Orthodox Church I know you talked about going vegan for 40 days, 45 days. I guess that would be your equivalent of a Lenten season.
Pretty much it
And
is.
in that
Yes, it
time,
is.
you pretty
It's
much
literally
sacrifice
yep.
something, food, no eating until sundown or what have you. But again, it's like that build up that it's preparing you for this seminal event. Is something I think a lot of churches try to implement, whether it be in the Eastern or the Western Church. They really try to move you towards. But for anybody complaining about black church services are too long, a 3.5, 4 hour church service in the Greek Orthodox, that may change your opinion too. For a lot of us, it's under 2 hours is we consider a good thing. So it's all about perspective when it comes to that. But
So
yeah.
the for Lent that we don't specifically like. I know some Roman Catholics will say, "I'll give up. I'll sacrifice. I'll give up
Mhm.
iced tea, for example, or I'll
Yeah.
give up chocolate
Sweets
for
or
the."
yeah,
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 we don't have a sacrifice because we're already sacrificing eating meat. We become vegan,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's our version of sacrifice.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I talk to a lot of people. And people are like, I cannot do it. I cannot give up my meats,
Right.
for that long, or give up milk or whatever. I'm like, and it is a challenge. I'm not gonna lie, it's a big challenge.
Right. Right. Well, again, and it's interesting because it's becoming, I think, more fluid in certainly modern times. In fact, I even the Catholic Pope, I think he had addressed the issue that you have some people moving away from your traditional fasts
Right.
during Lenten season. So I know some people, they give up, for example, social media. Anything that you basically put a lot of time in. So some people give up smoking. You shouldn't be smoking anyway, but some people do that. Some people give up, like I said, gaming or internet, no social media for 30. They just go on lockdown instead, maybe read their Bible more during that time. And then some are starting to come out and say, and I think even I think the Catholic Pope had mentioned it, that there's certain things that you need to, give up, and like give up unforgiveness, give up anger, give up certain things. Because at the end, and I've just seen it practically, a lot of people go into Lent and they're doing it almost for the wrong reasons, if I can be so bold to say that, because a lot of it is just about surviving until 6 o'clock, and then you stuff your face until you can't eat anymore, and then you do it the next day. So it's not even so much about the reason why you're fasting, it's about, can I survive until 6 o'clock? And then for a lot of people, they talk about how much weight they lost during the Lenten season. Oh yeah, I lost 20, 30 pounds because I gave up sweets and diet and Cokes and all that kind of stuff during that time. But as soon as the season's over, as soon as Easter and beyond, they just go on this food binge. And we all know from a dietary perspective, usually when you lose weight drastically over time, you're probably going to lose a lot of muscle. And muscle is very biologically expensive to build and to lose. And so a lot of times what you get back in weight is oftentimes fat. So a lot of people come out of Lent fatter than they were before they went into Lent, because they went on this sort of balloon, sort of yo-yo sort of diet, if they want to call it that, as well. So I always even caution people, just from a health and physical perspective, again, if you are going to go into fasting, making sure that you abstain from certain foods. And then also when you come out of it, don't just go binging because, okay, yeah, now it's Easter Sunday, now bring the cakes and pies and sweets and all that kind of stuff and start stuffing yourself. I mean, everything should be done in moderation. Everything should be done with some discipline, regardless of the year. But a lot of times I see people doing that, and it's almost like it's predictable. Like, I know what's going to happen, and then they wind up messing up their biologies quite a bit in doing so. So that's always just something, when I've had the opportunities to talk about, dieting, doing fasting, if you choose to fast, because again, the other thing certainly with the Protestant churches, a lot of times it is optional. It's really based on, because it's not defined in the Bible that we need, Lent is not defined in the Bible. So for a lot of people, it's just a matter of conscience and choice to say, look, I want to do this in honor and recognition of the coming crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. For others, they choose another route with that. But regardless, I say, certainly just be mindful of what you're eating. That should be 365 days a year when it comes to, moderation, when it comes to certain foods. So I think that whole platform, I think needs closer examination. But again, for certain people, it's not always done by everyone. So yeah, do you have any comments on that? Or
I agree on all you're saying, because we forget, we do through Lent, or Holy Week, whatever you want to call it. But what can we do it all year round? Like, I consider myself going, vegan a couple times, or going on a veggie diet for health reasons, losing weight, obviously. But I never do it because I like my meat too much. I actually thought about it very carefully. And I put the pros and cons together, and I pros about weight loss, but I do enjoy eating meat, so I couldn't do it personally. People that do it all year round, like Father Coseno, he does it pretty much all year round. Like, he certain days he's allowed to eat meat, some days he's not. Like Wednesdays and Fridays, he does not allow to eat. He becomes vegan those 2 days, and that's a thing. Obviously, being a father of the church, he needs to follow the guideline a lot stricter than me and you do, obviously.
Yeah,
but that's making an excuse. We should be following it as strict as he does too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to sort of take a little switch here, just to kind of give some insight why because again, for some of the people who might be watching, who may not be mindful of why the different dates. And I just wanted to kind of go into a little bit of discussion. If I can actually show something here in terms of from slides, I had something I wanted to share. And Black David, if you're in the back, if my slide doesn't show up, then I would like you to see if you can help advance. Oh, it came up pretty quickly. Okay, so this idea of calendars. Now, calendars is not about keeping time. Really, calendar is about understanding and recognizing events, all right, that happen in our natural world. And I think that happens to, help us sort of stay on track when it comes to certain things. So there's 3 major types of events that we tend to follow. So the first one is the day calendar, or the solar day calendar. So typically for us, a solar day is 24 hours, or you can actually break it up into 6-hour periods. And that's going to come into play with the next thing I'm going to share. Now, again, so a solar day is typically 24 hours. A sidereal day is actually, to get a little more technical, is 23 hours and 56 minutes. So the sidereal day takes into account the day relative to the stars that are around us, because everything's moving. So we move around, the earth spins, it moves around the sun, but then also the galaxies and the stars are moving also. That's why at any time of the year, you may look up in the stars and you may see one zodiac arrangement, constellation of stars, and then another point of year, you're going to see another one. So taking that into consideration from an astronomical perspective, the sidereal day is a little bit shorter when it comes to that, but that's going to factor in when we talk about the actual calendars that we use. So again, we monitor the rotation of the Earth, and that's usually a 24-hour period. And then we also have this idea of what's called the lunar calendar. Okay, so the lunar calendar is basically the time it takes to go from a new moon, where you can't see the moon at all, to a full moon, back to the new moon. On average, the lunar calendar is 29 and a half days. If you multiply that by 12, it's 354 days total in the lunar calendar. All right. But as we know, the modern calendar that we use is 365 days. And the reason for that is because, so again, keep in mind, so we have the day, the rotation of the Earth. We have the moon phases of the that are certainly in the northern hemisphere. And then we also have the solar year, okay, which is, again, the time it takes the Earth to go around the sun. Now, in order to do that specifically, okay, it's not just 365 days. It's actually 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds. So that 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds, that's also going to be important, because keep in mind what I said earlier. The day typically is 24 hours. So if you was to break up that 24 hours into 4 periods, that's about 6 hours. All right. Whereas here, for the rotation of the sun around the Earth around the sun, it's about 6 hours, given about 11 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. That's also going to be important, okay, in what's going to be coming up next. And then you have the different equinoxes, because as we know, if you learn this in elementary school or middle school or whatever, the Earth also rotates on an axis of 23.5 degrees, okay, as it's rotating and going around the sun. That also brings into view this idea of these equinoxes. Okay, so you got the vernal or the spring equinox, you got the summer solstices, you have the autumnal equinox, and the winter solstice. Okay, so when they talk about changing your clock, adjusting your clock an hour or whatever for the daylight savings time and whatnot, a lot of those dates come into play. And why these things are important, just to also break down again what the solstices mean. Okay, so the summer solstice versus the winter solstice, these are the longest. When you look at the poles, these are the longest and shortest days of the year, depending on what pole that you're at. So on the summer solstice, it's like a 24-hour a day. It's like there's no night. Whereas on the South Pole, it's completely surrounded in darkness for like the whole period. And then it flips for the winter solstice, because again, the Earth rotates on an axis. And then you have equinoxes. Now, the equinoxes mean that on these particular days, you have an equal amount of sun and night. 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of darkness. And there's also a difference in in terms of how they're calculated. So you have an astronomical vernal equinox can fall between March 21st, since we're talking about Easter tonight, so I'm going to focus on the upper left-hand corner. March 21st, 20th to the 21st in the northern hemisphere. Now, in the southern hemisphere, it's reversed. So they're actually in the fall period. Again, September, their vernal equinox happens September 22nd to 23rd. So again, we're talking about the astronomical equinox. But there's also something called an ecclesiastical equinox. All right. In 354 AD, the church at that time decided that we're going to set a set time for the vernal equinox. That's going to be March 21st. So even though astronomically, scientifically, it can fall either on the 20th or the 21st, the church said, you know what, going forward, we're going to recognize the vernal equinox as always being on March 21st. All right. So because of that, Oh, blowing up. Is there any way to shrink this down? All right, I'm gonna have to just explain this thing because I didn't know it was gonna do that kind of blow up. But basically, we also have this idea of calendars, right? Now, again, the Julian calendar, it was created by Julius Caesar. It was first introduced to the world in 46 BC by Julius Caesar. That's why it's called the Julian calendar. And in that calendar, they had to account for, if I go back, as I said earlier, let me just go back a few. As I said earlier, the earth doesn't go around the sun 365 days. You got to account for that 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 48 seconds. If we round it up, it's about 6 hours. 6 hours over 4 years is 24 hours. In other words, you essentially have a day. So the purpose of the Julian calendar was to accommodate that extra day over a 4-year period. So the Julian calendar, just to make it simple, they made it 365 and a quarter days. And that started again around AD 46. Now, but the problem is the actual calculation, the astronomical calculation of that 365, 5 hours, 48 minutes, 46 seconds, fractionally is not 2.5 or 25, it's 2.422. That slight difference can actually throw off your dates over time. So go from 46 BC to 1582 AD, where you had this with a Catholic Church under one of the popes at the time. I think his name was, I believe, is Gregory the 13th. In that time, he created a new calendar because initially they tried to align the year with the changes of the seasons. Okay, the lunar calendar and the day calendar and whatnot, everything kind of got thrown off. And so by the time you get to 1582, the dates were thrown off for about roughly 10 days. And so because of that, there was an adjustment made to the calendar to get the dates more aligned with the equinoxes that were set. Again, the ecclesiastical equinox was permanently set to March 21st. And they wanted the calendar that was going to better align with that and also to be more accurate while still accounting for the leap year. So the Gregorian calendar is sort of an update of the Julian calendar. And so there was some changes in dates done in that time. Again, I'm not a science expert on this. Again, this is sort of my crash course on this that I got in that time. But Black David, I don't know if there's a way to, I don't know, again, why it's blown up that way. I don't know if there's to shrink it down to get the full view in, but I can just explain what's not present if need be. But that difference in calendars is important in terms of why we celebrate Easter on different days, because we use the Gregorian calendar in the calculation of Easter in certain days, whereas the Greek Orthodox Church still relies on the Julian calendar. So on the Julian calendar, Easter is going to fall as it is today. It's going to fall on today's date versus on the Gregorian calendar. It's going to fall where for us this year it was March. March 31st. So now universally, yeah.
Sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
If you're using it from your browser, they may have a setting whereby you can shrink the font of the display of it, because I cannot control it from my end.
Okay, not a problem. Like I said, anything that I can't see on screen, I'll just describe it manually, because again, I got the slide, the PowerPoint in front of me, so I'll just explain whatever's not present. But again, that slight off between the 2.5 and the 2.4, basically, if you go every 129 years, the Julian calendar adds a day to the calendar every 129 years. So again, by the time we got to 1582, 10 days again were added to the calendar, and that needed to be fixed. And that's one of the reasons why they came out with the with that particular calendar. Now, if I just move on here, I'll try to explain here again. So again, based on,
let me jump in 1 second really fast.
Sure
We call
thing,
it the leap year. That's why we have that difference of the leap year.
Correct.
For year, it falls on the same.
Correct. And that's why I explained earlier, the reason for the Julian calendar, the one introduced by Julius Caesar, was to accommodate that leap year. So again, the fact that the earth rotates a little over 365, but another roughly 6 hours. So every 4 years, you add a day to the calendar to make sure you sort of stay on track. But again, the calculation wasn't precise enough. And so because of that, over the centuries that came afterwards, the calendar kind of got shifted off, which is the reason why they introduced the Gregorian calendar as a correction. Now, again, most of the world now operates, even in Greece, these countries, from a societal perspective. Everybody essentially honors the Gregorian calendar. That's basically what the world, for the most part, operates off. I know in Asian countries or whatnot, they use different calendars. I know Jews, they still have a calendar that they use. But for commerce and business and just most everything else, we use the Gregorian. But again, the Orthodox Church still uses the Julian when it comes to holiday planning. So again, here, based on the Gregorian or the Catholic calendar, Easter is the first Sunday after the ecclesiastical. Again, not the astronomical. The astronomical start of the equinox it could be the 20th or the 21st. The church said we're going to make it permanently March 21st. Okay, so it's the first. So after the March 21st, you have your first full moon, and then Easter is the first Sunday after that first full moon. So because it's slightly off, in terms of, March 21st is not always going to be accurate. You may miss a cycle of that lunar cycle of 29.5 days. That is the reason why Easter can fall anywhere between March 22nd and April 25th of any given year as far as in the Western Church or the Western calendar. All right. Now, conversely, it's because, again, the Eastern Orthodox are using the Julian calendar, also aligning with the idea is typically Easter typically follows Passover. Now, Passover this year was between April 22nd and April 30th of this year. Okay, so again, in the Western calendar or the Western Church, our Easter does not always follow the Jewish Passover. Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter. In the Orthodox Church, typically you guys like to have your Easter following Passover.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. So again, the dates are going to differ. One, because of the desire for them to follow Easter following Passover, not the spring equinox or the vernal equinox. And so because of that, in the Orthodox Church, Easter can fall anywhere between April 4th and May 8th of any given year. So again, you're still talking about a month, whether you be in the Western Church or in the Eastern Orthodox Church, you can fall anywhere between those times. But again, a lot of it is based on, again, how you're setting your calendars, what calendar you use, and also what you feel should be the adequate start date. Those dates can overlap at times where they're closer together. But in this year in particular, they can be very much different. They can be very much apart. So this is just the nerd in me a little bit. I'm not an expert on astronomy or anything of that nature, but I thought this would be useful in explaining to the audience regarding how we got here in terms of how the calendars get involved, the observation of certain seasonal times of the year get involved, and these led to the reasons why, again, at least in the Orthodox Church, that's unlike other churches, did not accept the Gregorian calendar when it came to these dates, why the dates are different. Having said that, as I said to start out with, I don't care.
So let me jump here 1 second.
Whether you do it on any date, the important thing for me is that you celebrate, you celebrate Easter, or you celebrate the resurrection of Christ. What day you decide to do it on, we can debate that if you want. But my thing is more so that you do it more, if you're a Christian, more so than us getting into these arguments over what date it should be at. But I thought that would be instrumental. So I'll stop sharing.
So let me jump in
kind of take it from there.
Add my little 2 cents in here. So we have also what was called the old calendar and the modern calendar.
Mhm.
So that goes by church. I'm not saying scientific or anything like that. So I know some Russians will follow the old calendar. Like one of the holidays I know it does not fall. I know Christmas for Orthodox and Roman, most people always falls on the same date. So, but Russians with the old calendar, they celebrate completely different than we do. So it's completely different. So that's a good example I want to put out there. So it's the calendar too. So that's a debate that it's a can of worms I don't understand. Probably never understand that why one follows the I call it the modern Orthodox versus the old calendar Orthodox. I don't know why it's different. Who knows? That's a question for Father Costantino, to be honest with you. So let's get back on track here.
Yeah. So so that it kind of explains, like I said, some of the differences. Again, I may not give in the perfect. I know Joshua is certainly adding some further alliteration and illumination in the chat. So again, I thank you for anything that I left out, or it does get a bit more complicated. But I just wanted to kind of give a sort of a Cliff Notes version of that breakdown. But I thank you for your contribution in the chat. As far as educating the rest of the audience. But again, we are working off of 2 calendars. But that said, dealing more specifically, you talked about it a little bit more with the practices, get more into the practice. So what is your Easter Sunday or Resurrection Sunday, however you want to call it? Again, so church service, 11:30 p.m. What's that experience like compared to other weekly or Sunday services that you may have on the calendar? So if you want to go in and kind of give a further aligning on what that, if I was to come, what would that experience be like, contrasting it with other Sunday services you may have, or Sunday evening services you may have.
So there's a couple of things I want to, as we're waiting till he responds, there's a couple of things that I wanted to space also with the Easter Sunday meals. Some I know traditional with, I guess, better term American, I want to say, and I apologize if I offend anybody with that. They do different Easter eggs, like they do red, blue, orange, all these different colors. We don't do that. We only do reds, and we don't do fake eggs that you put chocolate and hide them. We don't do that. That's this thing we don't. We're not into that. We just do red. Actually, the priest, after service ends at 3 a.m., he passes out red eggs to everybody.
Okay, so the egg. So what does in Eastern Orthodox what does the egg represent? Does it mean like fertility or what? Because that I never quite fleshed out what those what the symbol of eggs mean regarding that. But how does from your understanding, how does what does the egg represent in regards to Easter?
How can I put this? Red is usually the most natural color for the holiday. It represents the holiday. If I say I'm not 100% correct on this, I might be wrong. Is the blood of Christ? That's what red represents,
right? Okay,
and that's what from what I understand and know. Again, Father Costin might say completely different. That's what I know. Actually, fun fact: when we actually when we crack our eggs open and eat them because they're horrible eggs, we play a little game with them actually. So it's you have one, I have one. So you take it and you try to crack it. Okay. So if you say you crack me, all right, then I spin on the other side. You still have 2 sides. Then you crack both sides of me. I lost the game. Now, if we tie, we go for round 3. So the point of that, who can crack for the other person's egg first? It's a little fun game people play, but that's it.
Now, is this done by children mostly, or do adults do it as well?
Everybody does it.
Everybody does it.
And like I know some people actually take a wooden egg, pin it so it looks like real, and use. I'm like, you cheated.
Blasphemous. That's blasphemous.
Yeah. And then we crack it open and we eat it afterwards. We had eggs for like a couple weeks. I eat hard eggs all the time, so it doesn't bother me. But some people they like I see people do up to like 8 dozen eggs. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of freaking eggs.
Yeah, that's a lot of. Yeah, you might not want to be around that person after a while. They start giving off some gaseous reactions there. So that might not be the person to be around.
You're getting good protein in at least.
That is true, but again, you get those protein farts also. So I'm just saying that could be a problem.
You know what's funny? After you fast for that long, and you're not eating meat and with all the fats, the first day when you start eating meats and all your normal diet, oh man, that bathroom you're visiting that bathroom.
Oh yeah, you're not used to it. Yeah.
Your body is just rejecting everything.
Exactly.
I was in the bathroom like 4 or 5 times. Then I'm like, shit.
Right.
Like that's why I keep it like, okay, this this is your bath, this is my bath. Let's like kind of split up. You go, ready? Hut, you go.
Right.
But yeah, so like I want to get touch that based on one of the holy light because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
understand that. So your godfather or godmother will get you a labada. A labada is a big candle, pretty much. It's traditionally your godfather hands you that is supposed to be your guide in through the Holy Spirit. If your son God forbid something happens to your parents. So he gets you one. There are different kinds. Like my godfather got me some interesting ones, like little different designs, like a keychain on them. Like afterwards, whatever's on it, you can keep it. Like a lot of them get toys on them. I got interesting ones. He had unique tastes. So we continued with those. So with the I get the labada, and I don't get it at my age anymore. I just purchased my own. But a kid, has that. He should. So when this fire comes out, we put all candles out. Everything is lit lights. It's pitch black. You can't even see your nose. That's how dark it is in the church.
Right.
So only person who can see anything is the priest back there. But he has everything closed up, the curtain, everything. So you can't even see anything through the altar. And the only thing you start hearing is when he comes out, the light comes out. And it's like best way I can explain it because it's very relieving to me when I see it. It's like almost like because you're so dark, you when he first comes out with the light, it's like an angel coming out almost. Not literally, but that's how it feels.
Right.
And then some people have the altar boys with candles and receive it and then pass it through crowds. And some other people will say, or it'll be members of the church who do it, high members. So pass it through as you get in. You won't say Christos Anesti to the priest says Christos Anesti. You might say, Kalopascha or Chronopala, either one. Kalopascha is I'll be happy, sir. Chronopala means happy holidays. Either one's fine. And when after Christos Anesti, that's where everybody starts, kissing everybody, Christos Anesti, hugging everybody. It's that's our part of being Greek. That's not tradition, is just how we are.
Right.
So we move on for the service, I guess, after that. And in our service, like a regular Sunday service, nothing special about it.
Okay. Are they reading or they illuminating the Easter story or the resurrection story?
Yes,
those particular passages that deal with, Mary and the women going to the empty tomb, and is that illuminated in the
through the week? Yes. Through the week, we do go through that. So Saturday morning, they specifically hit that in the Bible. They read that chapter out of it. Yeah, because the Bible comes out twice. First Bible reading and a second Bible reading. The second Bible reading is right before communion comes out. And then after communion, you're like, okay. You're like, oh man, I made it finally. Okay, Father, say amen, because I'm going to get the heck out of here. So traditional that says you're supposed to leave after he says amen. But there's some people who receive communion and go, that's it. I'm done. I take my bread and I go out. There, the third party of them are like, they wait till Holy Communion goes back in and then leave. I was raised up, you do not leave church till Father says amen. End of story. That's when church is over.
Gotcha. And what are you typically doing as a worshiper, I guess, in that time? So again, certain events are happening. The priests, they're doing certain rituals, again, with the candle, the darkening of the room, the candle comes out, they're reading the scriptures. Is it more like a call response? Do they read something and then you in response recite something? Is there something in your hand? Is there is there a program, for example, like you go in? Is there? Okay,
it is. So they do have handouts to have. So if you're not familiar with it, you can follow along. Because remember, it's spoken in two languages, Greek and English. It always starts with Greek, then it goes into English. Sometimes Father does it all the way around, but it depends on the service. Now, before that, we always have our regular praise. Dear Father, the value that comes through, and so on. We replace that with the Christos Anesti song. I call it a song for better understanding. So we say Christos Anesti and so on. And as
everybody sings that together.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
So everybody starts, doing the with their candles, shape of a cross.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the whole time we're singing that, and that's how we do it. And then after you're done, you usually just do your cross after that. And so on. Cross is always done 3 times for anybody who doesn't know, because of the Trinity we believe in. I just want
Father,
to throw
Son, and
that
Holy
out there really
Spirit. Yeah,
fast.
right.
It's
Mhm.
3 times always you do it. And like, their key points in a service, not only Sundays and any service, you do your cross. The best way I can explain it for people, like say, if you were there, you go to me, "Hey," I'm like, I'm not familiar with how to do my cross. I'm like, first of all, I don't expect you to do your cross because you're not Orthodox. But if you want
Mhm.
to follow along, do your own, that's fine. The
Mhm.
best way I can explain it, when Father does it, you do it. If he does when he's hand motion, you do your cross. If he
Mhm.
does it himself, then you do your also. That's the
Mhm.
best way if you don't understand. We
Mhm.
have a lot of visitors, believe it or not, in old times, non-Orthodox.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
come in.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it would think it'd be something worth experiencing at least one time in your life
oh yeah,
to see that. So I can certainly understand that.
oh yeah, dude. I know this is gonna be a year from now, but next year, if you're willing to put the late night on, more welcome.
Come to the- You might have to start me a little sooner. When is your typical Sunday service, or do you have multiple services over
We only have
the
one
weekend?
service on Sundays,
And
so
what time is that?
starts around 8 o'clock. I usually
Eight
go around
o'clock.
9. Yeah, I get done around 12.
Okay.
But I always hang out afterwards, go downstairs. We have coffee hour,
Okay.
and we have everybody has coffee. Some people donate food on top of that. So we have so it's a great time. It's a great even for yourself actually to mingle with other Orthodox people
Hmm.
to understand. Okay, their faith is a little stronger than this person. Why is that? You can ask questions too.
Hmm.
I know
Yeah.
Father Costano would love to have you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. If I can ever break away from my church, they won't let me go. They got me doing so many things on Sunday, man. It's like, oh man, because I do the Sunday school in the morning, and then I run the AV system over there. So it's like
They
I
also
gotta
have a
get
service on a non-Sunday too, like on a Wednesday night or
Wednesday
something
night.
else. We can work something out. I talked to
Now
Father.
that's also, is that like a 4 hour, 3 or 4 hour service
No, that's
also? Or
like
is
an
it short?
hour.
So okay, so it's almost like a Catholic midday mass or
Yeah, kind of.
or
Yeah,
something like that they
yeah.
have during the
We
day.
don't go to communion. It's a small service. The rule of service in Orthodox Church is you need 2 people in there to actually have traditional service, and you
Okay,
cannot have
right.
it without these 2 people: the priest and myself. I'm using me as an example, or
Hmm.
somebody who worships.
Hmm.
Without the worshiper is no service. He cannot do it by himself.
Sure, understood,
Yeah,
understood.
that's how it works.
Yeah, yeah. But did just in general, just given people's work schedule, what is that 1 hour service like on Wednesday? What is that fairly popular or attended, or do people can break away for like a midday type of service or something like that? Is it?
Depends on the church, to be honest with you. This
Gotcha.
our church is small, versus like say St. Nicholas in Bethlehem, or like a New Jersey church, or a church in New York. Those are a lot bigger. Like if
Hmm.
I go down, say it's probably a bunch of Orthodox churches around your area,
Hmm.
it's probably packed. To be honest with you.
Right. Right. Well, keep in mind, like here we have at least the churches that are actually very close to me. One is, and again, I know these aren't technically Orthodox churches. I know we have Coptic, we have the Egyptian
Mm.
Coptic churches near me, and I believe I want to say there's a Ukrainian Orthodox that's also in my town. I understand the Ukrainians maybe do things a little bit different than the Orthodox. So you do have a few, but I don't know of off the top of my head a Greek Orthodox. I would have to certainly look that up to see what's the nearest one to me. But if I was going to go to one, I'd probably try to arrange a time to go to yours.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll
Since
figure
I
that
know
out.
you, yeah. Josh is saying, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to show up at randomly at an Orthodox church just to show up. So yeah, it'd probably be a good idea that you have to go with somebody who's part of that, so they can kind of help you a little bit in terms of understanding what's going on.
Believe it or not, we have a lot of guests from different cultures come in
Mhm.
and visit with
Right,
nobody inviting them. They just show up, and Father's open arms. You're welcome.
right,
And he says, if you have any questions, please see me afterwards. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
right. And what do you think is the appeal? Like, what do you think is is it just curiosity, or what, like when the people who do come and, like, say if you had a chance to meet them, like you said, during your coffee break or whatever,
Mhm.
like what are they saying? Like, why did they decide to come to an Orthodox service? What was generally the what you've gotten in terms of their
I
feedback?
hear 2 common nominators. One, they're curious,
Hmm.
and 2, again, I'm not trying to bash anybody. It comes down to tradition. Like we're one of the few churches that follows tradition to the T still.
Yeah, yeah,
So, like Father said, the 2 are based. Again, you agree or disagree? Father said, like he said, like Roman Catholic and Orthodox are the 2 that started this Christianity. That is I personally think is debatable. I
hmm,
don't think we have a founding level back then,
right,
because we have so many millions of years that passed. We don't have documents, so I have to
Right.
But let's say for arguments for the conversation, we are the one of the tradition that starts, quote unquote.
Mhm.
Okay, they're curious to see what's the difference. I know a lot of people they're really curious. Like, I really want to walk in there and see what is different. I have gone to a Catholic church.
Mhm.
I don't know, it threw me up completely out of wing. I'm
Did
like,
it? Did it?
what do
Yeah.
I do? I know they usually, touch the holy water and they do the cross. They walk in with the 2 fingers. Like, I'm not. I don't. I do my cross, but I go to icons and kiss them. That's a little different. So it kind of threw me off. I'm like they were shaking, blessed with you. Like, oh, I'm supposed to shake your hand. I was thrown off. I didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And I was very young too.
Right. Now you sit now again. Josh is, I guess he's asking in the chat. He's a little curious, like, for some reason he didn't expect the Greek church to be so open to anyone coming. Now I don't know. I don't know if that. But what I was going to ask you was, could that be, if I was to opine on why he may have that perception, again, the Orthodox Church in Greece versus that in America? I mean, because we're in America, right? I mean, you're not, and even Father Casadino said, look, we have all people. Again, the Greek church is not for Greeks. I mean, that's one of the things that he kind of led off with. That you can have people from everywhere, from any denomination, ethnicity, background, or what have you. So that's the church universal. But I would think, especially if you want to be appealing in America, which is a multicultural, pluralistic society, that again, you would want to have your doors open to anyone who would want to come. Now, again, in Greece, obviously, but the bulk of the population is Greece. I don't know what that vibe is like, and I think that might be one of the questions I may wanted to ask if I haven't answered already. Church service in Greece versus America, has there been any kind of change or modification, just as you've had with other Orthodox churches, to accommodate the people who you're serving? Because I mean, obviously, you're in a different country, different values, different background. Not everyone, obviously, in America, unless you're Greek, no one's speaking Greek for the most part. So again, I would think naturally there would have to be some sort of adaptation for an American audience versus if you're in Greece itself, where you could be a lot more traditional and a lot more aligned with common Greek practices. Again, that's my assumption, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
So I'm gonna debunk this the best way I can. There's multiple answers to this question. So I'm gonna hit the question out the rug. Our Greeks are open. Yes, we are very open to welcome anybody. I'll use one of the church I go to currently, the Holy Cross of Strasbourg. We have several people, more than several people, from a black woman to a Ukrainian guy to a Russian guy to a don't remember the other two are off my head, to be honest with you, non-Greek. And when we say our prayers, they get we say in Greek, English, and then he pauses and lets them jump in and say their version of it too in their language. So it's open to have anybody say it. So in Greece, are people as open? Yes, they are open. Anybody's welcome to walk in a church. There is no law saying you're not Orthodox. Get the heck out of my church. No,
right.
The only thing Father says, and I quote on this, when it comes out of the religious community, he starts his little speeches. Just a friendly reminder, Holy Communions are only for Orthodox Church, baptized and practiced, and so on and so on.
Right.
And please be respectful of that reason.
Right.
And I just recently was asked, like a Roman Catholic woman asked me, "Is that true?" I go, "Yes, it is true." I'm like, "Oh, I disagree with that," and that's fine. You can disagree with that because you're Roman Catholic. You believe something else. This is how we do it. So you have to respect the following.
Indeed. Yeah. Right.
So if, let's say, Josh, I'm not sure where he's at. Let's say he's in Pennsylvania. He's maybe 45 minutes from drive. I'm just going to use numbers to argument's sake. And if he wants to come down and join us, I'll be happy to welcome him open arms. Just let me know if you're old enough to come down, of course.
Right.
I'll love to have you. And we can have a conversation afterwards, with Father or you just Father, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Anybody, even like I said, as you're
well,
more
yeah. Well, I definitely think, again, the fact that the Orthodox Church, again, has this long lineage and history that's consistent. Because one of the things that I think makes it hard, difficult, I think certainly for people in the West, is the sense of confusion. that again, there's so many different denominations and so many different breakoffs and so many different expressions, which I don't have a problem with. I think at the end of the day, I think the faith itself is a personal experience, and based on your background, based on where you come from, based on what moves you, I think your expression of it can and should be different. Again, read Romans 14, where Paul talks about this idea of essentially tolerance, embracing. Like, you may feel a certain way about different foods, about different holidays, about different practices. In some churches, some people drink, some people don't drink, some people don't eat certain foods. Some, all those things should be respected and accepted, because again, none of those things at the end of the day matter. At the end of the day, the question that's going to be asked of you is, who are you trusting in for your salvation at the end of the day? So, so those other matters, yeah, we can debate, we can talk. I think it's just like when we talk about martial arts, like most martial arts have a branch, have a root, a source system. But again, based on the practitioner, based on his or her experience, they are going to expand on it and come up with their own because of their own natural abilities. I mean, Bruce Lee was always talking about that. Not everyone's going to have the same fighting style or fighting system, because, some people are 5'2", some people are 6'5". You don't expect those people to fight the same way. But again, a kick is still a kick. Punches is a punch. Holes, whatever it is, there's going to be roots that are available, but everyone's going to grow naturally in terms of their own personal development. If you try to keep people so doctrinally sort of fixed and locked into an expression, then you're not allowing them to bloom into their full selves. Not everyone's going to have the same personality. I mean, certainly from what I'm hearing in the Greek Orthodox Church, I wouldn't say it's quiet from what you've described, but it's relatively, you don't have people acting out emotionally. At least that's the general sense that I get. That you don't have a lot of cathartic expression that comes out. Now in the black church, it's like a 180. I mean, you can have, depending on the service, depending on who's talking or whatever, you can have people break it down crying. Some might get up and run around and running. It could be all kinds of things, because again, you're allowed to express yourself. And again, just thinking about the significance of the cross, or thinking about the resurrection or what have you, it can, as you were saying earlier, it can stir up or conjure up different emotions in a person, and we don't quash that. We say, look, if you want to cry, you want to sing, you want to shout, you want to do whatever, it's all good with us. So again, I think it's natural for churches to do things differently. But I think in essentials, in fact, I forget the person who said it. I think in essentials, there's unity. In non-essentials, there's liberality. And in all things, there's charity. In all things, there's respect. In all things, that there's love. And you've always had these movements where people have tried to codify how people should act, or what a church is supposed to be like, or what have you. And I think that, that's done more to add to the confusion. So again, I think the appeal of the Orthodox Church is, again, you guys have been relatively consistent over time comparatively to other movements. You haven't had necessarily these schisms. So again, you had the schism of 1054 that Father Costantino talked about, and then earlier you had the schism with the Coptic or the African Church, and then obviously you had the big schism with the Protestant Reformation in the 1500s, and that just blown everything up, where you got 31 flavors of faith expression out there. But the consistency, I think, of the Orthodox Church, I think, is certainly something that I could see appealing to a lot of people who like or have assurance in keeping a tradition that has mostly been unchanged over that duration. Now, if you what you feel about that, if you concur with that, or
I actually
is that
agree
what
what
a
you're
lot of
saying.
people are coming? Yeah,
I think Joshua said it earlier when we first started. Orthodox are big about tradition, and yeah, there are really big on tradition, and that's where our roots come from. And like, I remember having my first confession like over a year ago when I first met Father,
Mhm.
and one thing we said, in our confession is Greeks are rooted by their religion.
Mhm.
That is one of the most important things to them. It's very few who say they don't go to church, they don't believe in it. I
Mhm.
can literally count in one finger. Literally, I maybe now it's hard for me to even say one person because I don't know anybody who does it.
Mhm.
I know one person who does not go to church, but he believes in it, and
Mhm.
that's his personal beliefs, whatever. But most of them are rooted by the church.
Right.
They
Now,
still
have you
follow the tradition.
seen? Now, have you seen? In I think I might have asked Father Cosentino on the show because I was talking about young people or millennials or not millennials, Gen Zers, and now the new one. I forget the new one that's out now. Has he seen a change, or are you seeing a change in terms of for the younger generations, 21 and under? Are they as tied or connected to the church? Because just overall, just statistically, you have a lot of people who are leaving any kind of organized religion. Doesn't mean they're not spiritual, don't believe in God, but they're not so tied to necessarily an orthodox or an orthodox type of church. Have you been seeing that, like in your services? Do you see a lot of, and I would say the Zers, because obviously if you're a kid, you're gonna, even the black church is like, look, you're going to church because because we're going to church, you're going to church until you're 18 or 21 or whatever. It's not even a discussion. You getting up, as long as you're living in my house, you're going to church on Sunday. But I'm talking about for that young person, that college age person who might be, certainly independent to an extent or college age or whatever. Are you seeing a lot of that generation, still faithfully attending or associated, whether it be because of Greek culture or just connection to the church in general? Or are you seeing that, or are you seeing more older congregants who might have, be more aligned with it?
Okay, I want to keep something in mind also when I'm going to answer this question. My church is very small, so I have to keep that in mind.
Okay.
I see a mixture in there. I see a lot of kids that go because they were raised in it, and that's the right
And that's
thing
what I'm
to
saying.
do.
Yeah, if I'm saying kids under 18, I'm not even going to put in a discussion because again, more times than not, your parents is like, look, at least until you're 18, I basically say go. So again, you go in the church because we're going to church. So
Yeah.
that's
So
not
me personally, anybody who's under 25 is a kid to me. That's how I always seen it because they
under
haven't matured
25.
enough.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I say kids, I keep that in mind. I'm talking about, okay, let's rephrase that. Let's say young men, for better
Hmm.
terms. Young men are showing up there more and more. Do they show as often? Like I know there's one young man, his name's John. I know him for years. He doesn't step foot in church usually on
Hmm.
Sundays. Most times because he's working. I got him a little slack on that.
Hmm.
But when he does show up, he usually only shows up on, Pascha. That's the only time I ever see him there. But I see
Hmm.
some of them that are actually volunteering to go. So is it as much as I want to see it? No. Is it
Hmm.
less? Yes. I would say if I had a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it like a 1 or 2%. That's it. A very small
Okay.
percentage.
Right.
And it's because who knows the reason is. Maybe that's the
Right.
mentality now, or they felt like for. I also believe is you're raised to go to church like I was.
Hmm.
So I was raised to. I was baptized as a kid and everything. I had somebody commented on one of our videos. It's on my side of the channel. Says you shouldn't be forced. It's not forced, but you were raised away like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how is it forced? If you have to guide a child in the spiritual world for
Hmm.
as long as you can. Once they
Hmm.
hit, let's say 18, between 18 and 25, and they kind of like want to go in their own way. Listen, I don't want to go to church. That's fine. You can't control them. You try to
Hmm.
guide them as much as you can.
Hmm.
Or it could be like me. I stepped away from the church for a little bit because of work and hanging out with the wrong people and all this stuff. And I
Hmm.
did a 360 and I came back to it. And when I came back to it, I'm stronger than ever.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's natural for a lot of people, especially for those when you have children, because you a lot of times you recognize the value, even though you might have stepped away from it, at 21, 25, whatever you did or
Mhm.
whatever. But a lot of times I see people when they have families or when they get married or whatever, obviously they want their kids to grow up in that tradition. And so a lot of times that oftentimes is what brings people back into church is when they have it. In fact, I'm seeing it in my church now. Folks are having kids now and they're starting to come back to church when they start their families and whatnot. So again, it's certainly the environment is something I think people value whether or not the quote unquote religiosity of it, sometimes it can get stale for people. But again, that's why I think the church is always needing to find ways to speak to, again, the issues that concern those people, those generations. I think, is we're not necessarily saying change the message, but maybe your delivery of the message. Information is received in a lot of different ways. And so again, I'm always asking, how can we reach, younger generations? Because I really believe that, especially with Jesus, just using as a seminal figure, I look at him as someone who I think would be very attractive to young people, especially in terms of how he how he treated people, how he went against a lot of the religious authority at the time, how he questioned things, how he talked about compassion for other people. So when you talk about causes that a lot of young people are concerned with today, I think he would be certainly an attractive figure to not, to follow and to see, what he really believes. Because I even know, like, atheists, they'll be like, look, I don't like the church stuff, or the churchy stuff.
Mhm.
But very few of them I ever heard have an issue with Jesus himself. Even Bill Maher said, like, Jesus was a decent guy. His followers or whatever is another story. So that's coming from, like, Bill Maher. So it's, I'm always encouraging young people, like, don't look at, yes, the church should certainly be following after him. But if the church is going to be a hang up for you, I always tell them, it's like, look, look at Jesus a bit more so than the religiosity that might be surrounded, that you might feel is maybe a bit dated or not relevant, to your life. But look at, what he said, how he moved, how he interacted. And I'm always asking the question of people, why is it that he was able to appeal to all these people? Like, he would hang out in these places that the religious people would say, look, why is he hanging out with those publicans and sinners? Why is he, fraternizing with those people or whatever? And the thing also is, like, the people weren't turned off by him. He didn't go in there talking about, oh, you're bad, or you're going to hell, or you're doing this or that. Most of the smoke he had for people was for the religious institutions themselves, the leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, those people who used religion as a way to control people and to essentially hurt people. And he came to, like, to free people from that. And so I'm always directing people to say, look, read more about Jesus, more so than the religious histories or whatever that's after him, because I think that, again, I still think he can be a relevant source of inspiration and, quite frankly, following, if you take the faith on. But I think that's something that I think a lot of churches, I think, need to focus more so than the doctrines. But again, that's a discussion that every church has to have. But but even when I'm talking to my daughters, again, my youngest one, she's going to be 21 this month. But these days when we have conversations about the faith, I'm always talking about Jesus. Like, that's, I'm like, don't look at, we go to an AME church. I'm like, look, you don't have to necessarily come to the AME church per se, but I do want them to know about Jesus and what he said, and, how you should treat people and how you should conduct yourself around people. Is based on his model, not so much what a church is necessarily saying. The church should certainly follow that. Mm-hmm. But if anywhere where the church goes away from that, then I'm always going to point him back to that. So that
I agree.
Helps keep the relationship with them.
But I want to add a little bit to what I also been seeing lately. So what I've been seeing also on top is, they like the whole family atmosphere too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But what I've been seeing a lot also, and the conversations I've been having a lot of people, a lot of single guys that come into church to meet a good woman they can bring home to. No, I'm that serious. And
I get. No, I don't doubt that at all. Yeah,
I actually had this conversation with Father. There are a lot of single men who are starting to go into church to hopefully meet somebody. They're not going for that reason, but it doesn't hurt if you meet somebody at church, you start having a conversation. You're a single guy. I'm not saying you're dating somebody outside of court. I'm saying you're literally single. Number one, nothing, no attachments. And he goes, hey, why don't you talk to my friend for a minute there? Maybe something can happen, or whatever the case is. They actually have events that people go to. All single men go, and all single women. It's kind of like the way Father says, like speed dating in a way. He pretty
Right.
much.
So the church does sponsor
Mhm.
events for single people, like a singles ministry per se, like with
Yes.
the purpose of, yeah, I think that's something that a lot of churches need to do. Again, if you want people to to marry, but I think they need to be a bit more intentional about it. A lot of single ministries that I went to, they're like, well, you're not necessarily here to meet anybody. You're here to kind of basically be comfortable in your singleness. And I'm like, forget that. I mean, I'm, I was like at the time when I met my wife, I was very intentional about, look, I'm looking for a godly woman, a Christian woman, or whatever. So yeah, I am here for that. And I don't think that's something people need to run away from. But I think, especially in our community, there's so many single people. It's almost like you don't want to deal with the elephant in the room. In that, why aren't you marrying, or are you in a good headspace to be married? Are you operating in a way that's truly that of a wife? Certainly if you're a woman. And I think a lot of people don't want to deal with that. And so rather than dealing with that, they're saying, "Oh, we're going to have this singles ministry for the sake of being single," you know. And my thing is, it's like no. I mean, yes. I mean, singleness. If you're called to that, if that's something that is a desire of your heart to just serve God completely and whatnot, yes, I'm sure there's a place for that. But if the natural order of things is for men and women to marry, and certainly if your faith is important to you, then I don't think anybody should be um, um, any way trying to confuse that in any way. I think it needs to be more direct. It's like, look, I'm looking for a woman who I can be equally yoked with and I can grow with spiritually and everything else, build a family and a community with. And I see no issue with people stating that up front and using that as the reason. But if that's not happening, then you really have to, the person then needs to deal with themselves. Why can't I meet somebody, or am I ready for this? We talk about this in the BMU space all the time. For women, are you wifeable? Are you operating in a way that will attract the man to you? Or are you operating in some masculine energy or something like that, trying to be, I can be all bad by myself. I don't need a man. I just need Jesus. And that oftentimes emanates from the pulpits and even from the women themselves. I'm here to serve God. Jesus is my husband. Like, really? So it's like, no, that's, for most of us, except for those who've been called to that level of discipline, no, we're supposed to hook up. We're supposed to marry and be coupled. So, so for a lot of those ministries that try to push that narrative, because people aren't, getting together, they're not dealing with the issues that are keeping them single. I think that needs to be addressed. I think for men and women. So I certainly I would challenge singles ministries to, like, hey, it's okay to put that focus up there, and encourage people to do better. I knew when I was looking to get married, I knew I had to be a husband, and I need to know what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a husband? What does it mean to be responsible for a family? I need to learn those things. And certainly church was a big part of that in terms of what my responsibilities as a man was. And I would hope it'd be the same thing for a woman. So I just, that's my opinion on the matter. I think that Joshua, you may be disagreeing with that as far as natural order, but I'm saying male and females are supposed to, we're meant to mate. And again, I think if you're going to have a family, I think marriage is the best structure to raise a family in. And God knows, certainly in the Black community with a lot of the single parenthood, I don't think that works to our benefit. So I'm
Believe it or
definitely,
not, it's in
yeah,
the Greek community. There's a lot of single women now coming out.
yeah,
They're divorcing or whatever the case is. So it's
hmm
not only, I would say, a Black community thing. I think it's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
cross gender thing now. And
yeah,
I'm gonna also agree with you what you're saying. A man and woman are meant. God made us to, one, hook up with a woman, to have
hmm
kids. Another one equals to marriage. That's why it's called one of the mysteries of life. Why do we
right,
get married?
right,
Why this? Why that? And so I'm gonna push back on that too. And like I think it is a natural cause.
yeah, yeah,
And I push back, and I'm gonna get a little. I'm gonna say one thing. I don't want to get too much into this conversation.
hmm
That's why, a lot, at least most Greeks I know, push back with same sex marriage. That's no,
yeah,
that's gonna
yeah,
happen.
right,
And I
right,
want to keep that. That's all I want to say about that. But
right,
with man and woman, that is natural.
Right.
Like
But I would say
you're.
the only thing I would push back on you on just to say is this:
Mhm.
why still you guys get married so late? When you told me the average age is like over 35, that seemed kind of unnatural to me. So why is the push
It's funny.
so late to
Somebody
get
said to
married?
me recently. It's actually Coach Nick, who comes on my show stuff, and he actually mentioned to me a while back. It was off camera. I said 38 is the perfect age to get married because your
Mhm.
maturity level as a man.
Right.
Um, I think it's a mature thing because when I was 21, 22, I wanted to get married. I'm not gonna lie about that. I want to have kids and everything, but I was too busy having fun, going out to bars, trying to hook up with all these women. And now I look back like, oh man, I was such a hot mess back then. Good thing I didn't bring a child in because I wouldn't be able to handle it. I always say this, and I'll keep saying to the day I die: kids are raising kids, and this is why the world was screwed up now. Like,
Yeah.
how old were you when you had your first kid, Paul?
I was 30,
30.
31. Yeah.
So you're into mature level. At least you had it right. But how many men you know are in their 30s? Their heads is not on right.
Hmm. Yeah. Nah, but I think just overall, I think the society is doing a lot to delay maturity. Again, back
Totally
in the
agree.
day, guys were doing at 20 what guys today are doing at 30. You know what I mean? It's almost like society saying delaying growing up. You know what I mean? So that's what we're, that to me that's that's a problem. Like everyone's just pushing it off. So I'll do stuff later, I'll get married later or whatever. It's like no, it's again, when you were 18 to 20, there's a reason why again, you could be 18 and go to war. You could be 21 when you had certain responsibilities. So my thing is, why can't you get married at 21, 22 years old? The only reason why is because again, so let me have my fun, let me get some things in order or whatever before I can get married. And I was just never a believer in that. And then you're gonna leave yourself to more temptations out there to hook up. You know what I mean? To say that hey, I'm just gonna have my fun and sleep with a lot of people and whatnot, and then once I get all that out of my system, then I'll get married. I mean, I don't know if that's gonna necessarily leave you better off. So I've always been in
I
favor.
totally
Anytime
agree
I
with
see
you.
a
Yeah.
young person under 25 getting married, I'm like, a salute to that. You don't need to be out here in this market in this hookup culture where people are doing a lot of things that is dangerous to their health and even to their psyche. So
And I
yeah,
agree
yeah,
100% what you're saying. But also, when I was coming around, the mentality was going out having fun was different than it is now. So you keep that in mind too. And also, I seen more people getting divorced when they got married younger than when they got married older
mhm,
because they didn't know what they wanted. I know. I can count on these literally few people in both hands, and I lost count of fingers. How many I know they divorced because not because they didn't love each other, they got married too young. Again, I'll throw one person out there. King Smith is a great example. He said it online all the time. He got married way too young, and right now his ex-wife is one of his best friends. But it took a lot of work to happen like that. But he knows they were not meant to be like that. So that's a good example. Maybe I do think maturity has a lot of thing to do with it too. Don't forget,
yeah,
maturity level here is different than in Greece too.
mhm,
So it's you also have to consider the culture is different too. So a man to be able to actually get married, he needs to do a couple of things. Be around, for example. So he's going to be going to school, then he's going to be to college. When he's done with college, he's getting drafted in the military. So he's going to be gone for at least 3 or 4 years in the
right,
service.
right.
So that's when he starts getting into. And by the time he gets all that done, he's in his 30s, and that's where
Mhm.
he starts meeting somebody. My best friend
So what,
Luis,
military service is what 3 or 4 years in Greece?
yeah,
3 or 4 years.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it also depends where you're stationed. There's a lot of factors in the middle,
Right.
and so on. Like my godfather went for a career, so he was always
Yeah, I know you
traveling.
told that. Yeah, you told me that
So
earlier.
that's why
Yeah,
he
too.
never got married, and
Hmm.
like he would not say that's the reason why he didn't get married. It's other factors too, but that
Hmm.
has a majority because how can you get married when you're always traveling so much? You're in different countries all the time and doing all this stuff. That is a factor
Hmm.
for him.
Yeah.
But in today's factor, I would say like George, my best friend, he just is finally met somebody, but he hasn't say will you marry me because he's not at that level yet.
Hmm.
So I know his brother took him a very long time before he actually proposed to his girl, and they're married now. I think they're expecting their first child, I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
It takes that's a big commitment, and that's when I hear people dating for a year or 6 months and are already engaged and about to marry, I'm like, don't you think it's a moving a little too fast? To me, 3 or 4 years is a minimum. What I see in Greece, they're dating before he gets on one knee and says, "I want to, will you marry
Mhm.
me?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then is they live together. I know we have disagreements on that part, but they live together for a while. Then they get married, and they go through the council of the church too. As a council, you have to go through this course, a marriage course, pretty much, to make sure okay, you're not doing this because I feel like you have to because you really care and love the person.
Mhm. Yeah. But we're at the hour. We should have ended that 25 minutes ago. But this was a great discussion.
Yeah.
First of all, again, I appreciate you bringing this up as a topic because again, especially in the West, like I watch the news and whatnot, and nobody on a large level, nobody recognizes, I think, Orthodox Easter. I haven't heard it. I said in the Orthodox Church, they're celebrating Easter today. Like on March 31st, it was like Easter stores all over. The Catholic Church was having mass in New York City and all that stuff. Nobody really. It's not mainstream, or at least it seldom makes mainstream news. So the fact that we were able to bring that up in this discussion, hopefully, people go back and watch this, get a little bit more education on, again, first of all, again, why the two Easters, why the, and again, based on the calendars and, hopefully what I shared, even though you couldn't see a lot of it, but hopefully I was able to explain through the different calendars and dates and whatnot. And, so again, for anyone who's joining us tonight, again, thank you, Lost in Translation, for stopping through tonight. Travel One, thank you also for coming through. And then Nia, thank you also for coming in and spending some time with us tonight. And I would certainly encourage people to go back, and not only that, go back and watch the live we have with Father Costandino, again, to get some additional perspective on the Greek Orthodox faith. Again, I'm certainly being edified in these discussions and learning a lot more about how other Christians worship in the world. And,
the only thing I want to add to this, I know Josh has a lot to say, and I welcome all your conversation. When we have a Q&A, I really recommend you jumping on and having a conversation, to us when we have our Q&A that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on any topic, I know the history show that we had, that was pretty live also. A lot of people were chomping at the bit to get on that conversation as well. So that's another, and again, this is also tied to history as well. So, we certainly looking forward to chopping it up. Thank you, NA, for saying, I hope this was phenomenal. We strive to put out phenomenal content. And again, this is about just two people coming from very different perspectives, but again, having a conversation with one another that we can, again, build bridges and understand that we're a lot more similar than we are different. And that, we're just trying to, hopefully through this type of dialogue and discussion, people can also model us rather than a lot of the screaming and shouting matches that you may see out in other platforms and streams. We want to have a civilized conversation and debate here. And so we're very, very much appreciative for the participation. Look forward to our live coming up. And can you just real quick just put that date for our live? I believe it's May 12th, I think.
Let me get my email.
The 19th?
1 second.
Yeah. So just to put it out there again.
Yeah, I want to get into my email. Give me 1 second, please.
Yeah. But with that, again, but for those who are joining us tonight, again, salute the Black Man Unfiltered for, again, giving us this platform. Again, he has content basically 7 days out of the week. And you'll find, certainly something to your liking Monday through to the beginning of the week now. So, certainly consider becoming a member. Subscribe to the Black Man Unfiltered network so we can continue, coming out with quality content. And, definitely looking forward to what we'll continue to do in this year. But, how are we doing? Did you find the date?
Yeah. Okay. So if my math is correct and everything I have correctly, it's supposed to be the 19th. The
19th. Okay. So again, that
college. And after that, the 19th is the one that's supposed to be the Q&A.
Right. So, okay. So May 19th is going to be our open mic. Yep. So you guys can come on and chop it up with us. But as always, keep it respectful. Again, we want to have that, as always, we welcome differences, but always keep it respectful. And we're looking forward to, chopping it up with the, with the watchers. And again, thank you once again for joining us tonight. So with that, if there's any other closing thoughts, Groomy, we can close this out.
I think I'll close it out. Like as
Okay.
always,
So again,
He's-
I am Mr. Bennett. He is Grooming and Reviews, aka the Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Buddy. This is the gray area. We thank you for participating with us. We'll see you guys next week. Until next time, take care and God bless.